Welcome back. There is at least one political topic on which most Americans agree in these divided times. Congress stinks. In a span of almost 50 years, Congress did its job on budgeting just 4 times. Since 1998, lawmakers have passed 136 stopgap funding measures like the one we're operating under right now. Almost 3/4 of the federal budget is on autopilot. Mandatory spending put in place in the past that just keeps climbing as the forecast for annual deficits surges toward $4 trillion a year within the next decade. And the national debt already stands at a mind-numbing $36 trillion. Woof. This ongoing fiscal meltdown is only one symptom of a larger problem at the heart of our republic, a Congress that can't, or at least won't, do its job. So what's the solution? If you don't want a rotten apple, you don't go to the barrel, you pick it off the tree. Our next guest has a big idea for changing the way that parties choose their nominees, an idea that maybe, just maybe, could create new incentives for cooperation and a Congress willing to do its job. Tom Daschle represented South Dakota in the House and the Senate and was a Democratic leader in the Senate for a decade, both in the minority and in the majority. He joins us now. Senator, what's your big idea?
Well, one of the big ideas is to have a bipartisan primary. The problem we have now, Chris, is that just the far left and the far right generally vote in primaries. And turnout is only around 20%.
If that.
If that.
Yeah.
And so there's very little interest and extraordinary pressure. And what has happened over the last several years is that the primary becomes more important than the general election.
And the voters in the primary have the same power because if you lose a primary, you're just as defeated, you're just as not in Congress as you would be if you lost a general.
Exactly. And so that's the problem we have. And what has happened as a result is we've become more polarized. The far left and the far right have driven us farther and farther from the middle. And the middle is where you get things done. Compromise is the oxygen of democracy, and we're not seeing it today.
Yeah, because the idea of our system is really about disagreeing effectively. It's about effective disagreement. It's about the places where 2 members can agree on something. They don't have to agree on everything if they want. And I'm sure, and I know for a fact that on many occasions in your career, you were able to work with Republicans on things that you disagreed with those people on almost everything else, but there were things that you had in common. If primary voters see a member doing that, though, they might punish them in a primary, so that is a disincentive for the person to do it.
That's exactly right. I've literally talked to members who are active today, who are serving today, who said, we'd really like to help you, but we just don't give our names or anything. We'd rather do it anonymously.
And that's why a lot of the legislation that ends, we talked about the continuing resolutions, a lot of this stuff gets done at the 11th hour, and it gets done hurry up at the end because they don't want to get caught being good at their jobs.
Well, the other thing it does is sometimes it happens behind C-SPAN cameras.
Yeah.
Because if you've got C-SPAN, oftentimes you're playing to the audience. You're not talking to the person around you. And that makes a big difference sometimes. We saw that a lot.
I want to talk about that big idea, but let's talk about how bipartisan or nonpartisan primaries work. So in California, for example, it's everybody gets in the pool in the primary, Republicans, Democrats, everybody, and the top 2 that come out of it, regardless of party, go on to the general. Exactly. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. We've already seen it work in California. I think there are a lot of variations, but that one appeals to me a great deal. What that would do then is everybody would be trying to generate the support from those in the middle, as well as those on the right and the left. We haven't seen that in recent elections, and I think the more we see that, the more you're going to see a change in Capitol Hill.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.